When my aunt died, everyone said she left me nothing. But that night I heard a sound in her empty room. A drawer opened by itself, and inside I found a secret letter with a tiny key. The next day, a stranger followed me through the street, whispering, "Don't open it." My hands shook. What was inside that letter, and why was everyone trying to stop me? My name is Anna, and I never thought my life would change with one letter. Aunt Mary was the richest woman in our town. She owned big houses, shining cars, and even a diamond necklace everyone talked about. People believed I would inherit her wealth. But when Aunt Mary passed away, my father John held my hand as we stood in the lawyer David's office. I hoped for good news. The room was silent except for the ticking clock. David opened the will, cleared his throat, and said, "Everything goes to charity." My heart sank. Nothing was left for me. No house, no money, not even a ring. People whispered behind me as I walked out, my shoes clicking on the floor. Outside, the cold wind blew against my face and I wanted to cry, but that was not the end because in my pocket I found something Aunt Mary had left only for me. A folded letter with my name written in her careful handwriting. The letter was old, the paper yellow, the ink fading. I stood under a street lamp, my hands shaking as I opened it. "Dear Anna," it began, "if you are reading this, it means I am gone. I could not give you my wealth openly, but I have left you something greater. A secret is hidden in my house." My heart raced. A secret? I stuffed the letter back in my coat as rain began to fall. Drops hit my face, but I kept reading. "Do not trust everyone around you, even in your own family. Some will try to stop you. Find the red box under the floorboards in my study. There you will learn the truth." I looked up and saw my friend Sarah running toward me with an umbrella. She hugged me and said, "Anna, don't cry. Let's go home." I nodded, but my mind was already far away, inside Aunt Mary's silent house, where a red box waited in the shadows. The next morning, I told Sarah everything while we sat at the cafe near the river. She widened her eyes when I showed her the letter. "Anna, this sounds dangerous." "What if someone follows you?" she asked. Just then, a man at the next table dropped his spoon loudly and glanced at us. I quickly folded the letter and slipped it into my bag. Sarah whispered, "He is staring." My heart pounded, and I told her, "Let's leave." We walked out, the sound of our boots splashing in small puddles. At the corner, I felt someone's eyes on my back. I turned, but the man from the cafe was gone. Sarah gripped my arm. "Promise me you won't go to that house alone." I nodded, but inside I knew I had to go. Aunt Mary's words echoed in my mind. Do not trust everyone. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, waiting for morning to come. When dawn broke, I told my father John I needed to visit Aunt Mary's house. He frowned and shook his head. "Anna, let the past rest. That house holds nothing for us." His voice was firm, but his eyes looked troubled. Why didn't he want me to go? Later, I packed a small bag with a flashlight, gloves, and the letter. Sarah insisted on coming, so we took the bus together. The ride was long and quiet, broken only by the sound of rain hitting the window. When we finally arrived, the old mansion stood tall, its windows dark like watching eyes. The gate creaked as we pushed it open. Inside the yard, dry leaves crunched under our shoes. The front door was heavy, but it gave way with a long groan. We stepped into silence. Dust floated in the air, and the smell of old wood filled my nose. The house was waiting for us, and I felt chills down my spine. We moved slowly through the house, our footsteps echoing. Sarah pointed at a broken vase lying on the floor. "Anna, did someone come here before us?" she whispered. I shivered. The air was cold, colder than outside. We walked into the study, the very room Aunt Mary had mentioned. The curtains were half torn, and books lay scattered on the floor. I remembered her words, "Find the red box under the floorboards." We searched the carpet and found a loose wooden board near the fireplace. My hands trembled as I pulled it up. Beneath the dust and spiderwebs, I saw the edge of something red. Sarah gasped, "It's real!" But just as I reached for it, a loud bang came from upstairs, as if a door had slammed shut by itself. Sarah grabbed my arm tightly, her face pale. "We're not alone in this house." My flashlight flickered as I pulled the red box out. It was small, covered in dust, and locked with a rusted clasp. Sarah urged me, "Let's take it and go." But my curiosity was stronger. We carried it into the hall, but the stairs above us creaked. I whispered, "Someone is here." The air grew heavy and a shadow passed across the wall. Suddenly, the front door slammed shut on its own, trapping us inside. Sarah dropped her phone and the screen cracked. "Anna, please, I don't like this," she begged. But I remembered Aunt Mary's letter. "There you will learn the truth." I couldn't leave now. We ran toward the back door, only to find it locked from the outside. Footsteps echoed upstairs, slow and steady, as if someone was watching us. My stomach turned with fear, but I held the box tight against my chest. Sarah and I ran back to the study, our breaths short and fast. I tried to break the clasp with a small iron rod I found near the fireplace, but it didn't open. Then the sound of a window breaking echoed through the house. We froze. Suddenly, a man's voice called, "Anna!" My heart stopped. Sarah looked at me in horror. "Who knows your name here?" she whispered. I couldn't answer. The voice came again, closer this time. "Anna, don't be afraid." My hands shook as I held the box tighter. Then, from the dark hallway, a tall man stepped forward. His eyes were cold, and his coat was wet from the rain. He smiled faintly, and in his hand he held a small silver key. Sarah gasped, but I recognized him. He was Mark, the stranger from the cafe. Mark's shoes echoed on the wooden floor as he walked closer. Sarah hid behind me, whispering, "Anna, don't trust him." But Mark lifted the silver key and said, "Aunt Mary left this for you. She wanted me to protect it until the right time." I narrowed my eyes. "How do you know my aunt?" He smiled faintly. "She saved my life once. In return, I swore to guard her secret." I hesitated, my hands sweaty, while Sarah whispered, "Anna, this feels wrong." Suddenly, a loud knock echoed at the front door, making us all jump. Mark quickly pushed the key into my palm and whispered, "Do not open until you are alone." The knocking grew louder, like someone was trying to break in. Sarah screamed and the red box almost slipped from my arms. I had to decide quickly: trust Mark or run from him. The knocking stopped as suddenly as it began, leaving a heavy silence. Sarah grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the back hallway. Mark didn't follow. Instead, he called, "Anna, the truth will save you, but only if you are brave." His voice echoed through the house as Sarah and I stumbled into a small storage room. Inside, old paintings leaned against the wall, covered in dust. I locked the door behind us, breathing hard. Sarah whispered, "Why would Aunt Mary trust a stranger?" I didn't know the answer, but the key burned in my hand. I knelt on the floor and tried it on the box. With a small click, the clasp opened. Inside lay several old letters and a photograph of Aunt Mary with a young boy, Mark. My heart jumped. She had known him all along. But before I could read more, the storage door handle began to turn slowly. Someone was outside. Sarah and I held our breath as the handle rattled. My mind raced. If it was Mark, why was he forcing his way in? I stuffed the letters back into the box and hid it behind a broken chair. The door creaked open, and instead of Mark, my father John stood there, his face pale. "Anna, what are you doing here?" he demanded. Sarah exhaled with relief, but something in his eyes made me uneasy. "Father, why are you here?" I asked. He avoided my gaze and muttered, "I came to make sure you were safe." His voice cracked, and he looked nervously at the box. "Did you find anything?" My heart pounded. He knew about the box. I stammered, "No, just dust." Sarah frowned at him. John stepped closer, but before he could speak again, glass shattered in another room and we all jumped in fear. We rushed out to find the source of the noise. A window in the hall was broken, and the cold wind blew inside. Shards of glass glittered on the floor. Mark was gone. My father, John, cursed under his breath. "Anna, you must leave this place now," he ordered. But I refused. "Aunt Mary wanted me to find the truth," I shouted back. Sarah squeezed my arm to calm me. Then I noticed something strange, a piece of fabric stuck on the broken glass. I pulled it free. It was part of Mark's coat. He had escaped, but why through the window? Sarah whispered. Maybe he was running from someone. My father snatched the fabric from me and threw it aside. His hands were shaking. "You don't understand, Anna. That box could destroy everything." His words chilled me. Destroy what? And why was he so afraid? We returned to the study where I had hidden the box. To my horror, it was gone. I searched the floor, moving chairs and books, but it had vanished. Sarah gasped. "It was right here." My father's face turned red. "Anna, you should never have opened it." I froze. "How do you know I opened it?" He didn't answer, only pressed his lips tightly together. Suddenly, the front door creaked open again, and this time, David, the lawyer, stepped inside. He looked surprised to see us. "What are you all doing here?" he asked. Sarah whispered in my ear, "Why does everyone keep coming to this house?" David walked toward us slowly, his eyes sharp. "I need to check the study records. Your aunt left more than you know." His words made me shiver. Maybe David wasn't just a lawyer after all. David set his briefcase on the desk and pulled out some papers. My father John looked nervous, pacing near the fireplace. I whispered to Sarah, "He's hiding something." She nodded. David glanced at me and asked, "Anna, did you find anything unusual?" I lied. "No, just dust." His eyes narrowed as if he didn't believe me. Then lightning flashed outside and the lights flickered. David bent down to the floorboards, tapping them with his cane. "Strange," he muttered. "Your aunt always hid things where no one expected." My chest tightened. Did he know about the red box? Sarah suddenly pointed at the desk drawer. "What is that?" Inside lay a small notebook with Aunt Mary's handwriting. David quickly grabbed it, but I snatched it from him. "This belongs to me," I said. His face hardened, and for a moment I saw anger behind his calm mask. Rain hammered against the windows as we argued. John shouted, "David, leave her alone!" But David stood firm. "Anna, your aunt's secrets are dangerous. If you keep digging, you could get hurt." His warning made Sarah shiver, but I clutched the notebook tightly. "I don't care. I want the truth." Just then, thunder shook the house, and the lights went out completely, throwing us into darkness. Sarah screamed as something crashed in the hall. I fumbled with my flashlight, its beam cutting through the shadows. In that moment, I saw a figure moving at the far end of the corridor. My heart pounded as the light revealed Mark, standing there silently, his wet coat dripping. He looked at me, then at the notebook in my hand, and whispered one word, "Run." Sarah grabbed my arm as Mark's warning echoed in the dark hall. My flashlight shook in my hand, the beam trembling across the walls. John shouted, "Stay away from him!" But Mark raised his hands, showing he carried no weapon. "Anna, your aunt trusted me more than anyone," he said firmly. My father's face twisted with anger. "Lies!" he yelled. Suddenly, David tried to grab the notebook from me, but Sarah stepped forward and slapped it out of his hands. The notebook flew across the room and landed near Mark's feet. He bent down, picked it up, and whispered, "This is what she wanted you to see." My heart raced. Who was lying, my father or Mark? The sound of footsteps echoed upstairs again, heavy and slow. My skin crawled. Was someone else in this house too? Mark handed me the notebook, and I quickly flipped through the pages. Inside were Aunt Mary's notes, records of secret bank accounts, names of powerful people, and warnings about betrayal. One line froze me. "If John finds this, he will destroy it." My breath caught. My father. He saw my face and tried to snatch the notebook, but Mark blocked him. Sarah screamed, "Stop!" Just then, the chandelier above us shook violently, dust raining down. A loud crack followed, and part of the ceiling gave way. We all ran as wood crashed to the floor, blocking the study door. Trapped in the hallway, the storm outside howled louder, shaking the windows. My father glared at me. "Anna, you don't understand." Everything she did was to protect our family. But if that was true, why did Aunt Mary warn me against him? Sarah and I hurried down the corridor, clutching the notebook and the red box which Mark had retrieved from a hidden shelf. David followed close behind, his eyes sharp and desperate. My father blocked the stairs, shouting, "You're not leaving with that." His face was red, his voice shaking with rage. Mark stepped between us and whispered, "Anna, trust me." Before I could answer, a sudden gust of wind blew open a side door and rain poured inside. The distraction gave us a chance. Sarah pulled me through the open door, and we stumbled into the garden. Lightning lit the sky, showing the tall fence around the property. Behind us, John's voice roared, "Anna, come back!" But my legs carried me faster. Sarah slipped in the mud, and I dragged her up, my heart pounding. The night felt endless, and danger was everywhere. We reached the old garden shed, its wooden door hanging loose. Mark pushed it open, and we rushed inside, our clothes soaked. He lit a small lantern, casting shadows across rusty tools. I opened the red box fully for the first time. Inside were more letters and a small black key. Sarah asked, "What does it open?" Mark replied, "Aunt Mary's hidden safe. It holds the final proof." My father's voice shouted outside, calling my name over the storm. Sarah grabbed my hand. "Anna, if he finds us, he'll take it all." Suddenly, David appeared at the shed entrance, his eyes wild. "Give me the key, Anna," he demanded. Mark stepped forward, blocking him, and the two men struggled in the mud. Tools fell from the shelves, clattering to the floor. I held the key tightly, knowing everything depended on what I did next. The fight between Mark and David grew violent, their shouts mixing with the thunder. Sarah screamed for them to stop, but neither listened. I spotted an old chest in the shed and quickly opened it. Inside were Aunt Mary's diaries, sealed with ribbons. I gasped, realizing she had hidden them here all along. Just as I pulled them out, David shoved Mark aside and lunged toward me. "That belongs to me," he snarled. I stepped back, clutching the diaries and the key. Mark rose again and punched David, sending him sprawling into the mud outside. My father suddenly appeared, his face pale, rain dripping from his hair. He saw the diaries in my hands and froze. "Anna," he whispered, "please don't read them." His voice cracked like he was hiding a terrible truth. Sarah held my arm, her eyes wide. I opened the first diary with trembling hands. Inside, Aunt Mary had written everything. How John, my father, had stolen money from her, how David helped him hide it, and how Mark had been her only ally. Tears blurred my eyes as I read her words. "Anna, you must be strong. The truth will hurt, but it will set you free." My father fell to his knees begging, "I did it for us, for the family." David fled into the storm, disappearing into the night. Mark placed his hand on my shoulder. "Now you know why she left you nothing," he said softly. "Her wealth was never money. It was the truth." I clutched the diaries to my chest as Sarah whispered, "What will you do?" I looked at my father crying in the mud and whispered, "I will protect her truth, no matter the cost." The storm raged on, but inside me, a new strength had been born.